The NFL Combine is in the books. We've got winners and losers, big takeaways. We're talking Luka and the Lakers. Are they legit championship contenders? Also, the biggest heel turn in wrestling history. All that more coming up next on The Big Lead. What is up, and welcome to The Big Lead. My name is Doug McCain, credentialed member of the media, the NFL radio for Westwood One, host of Locked On Rams, Dodgers Nation. And today we've got a jam-packed show. We are talking the NFL Combine. I'm very excited to have this guest. He's the host of Locked On Cowboys, also Locked On Dynasty, also a writer for the 33rd team. He's one of the great ball knowers when it comes to the NFL Combine. He's had a very busy week covering the Combine. Marcus Mosher, thank you for joining us today, my man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's Combine's always a fun week. I'm a little upset that I don't get to talk about my Luka Doncic now that he's on my Lakers.
We can pivot.
That's all right. I'm a Cowboy guy that's covering the Dallas Cowboys, but it's a Laker fan, so it always upsets my Locked On Cowboy listeners.
Hey, we love Nico Harrison here on The Big Lead. Okay, just let's end it at that. But hey, it's okay. Just join the purple and gold, man. Hey, you can just join us, and it's all good. But Marcus, let's get right into this Combine because it's the underwear Olympics, right? They're not wearing pads, but it's about times and measurements. And you start with the quarterback position, of course. And you didn't see Jador throw. You didn't see Cam Ward throw. The measurement of Cam Ward's hands and Jador's hands and their size. Any big takeaways from that at all whatsoever? I mean, some people saying Cam Ward's size measured a little lower than expectations.
Yeah, I don't care about the hand size or the measurements too much. What I do care about is how the interviews went and people just talking about Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. And it just seems like the more people you talk to from the Combine, the gap is pretty wide between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I fully expect Cam Ward to be the number one pick in the upcoming draft. Now, to who? The Titans, the Browns, the Giants? I don't know yet, but I think Ward is going to be the number one pick. I don't know where Shedeur lands. I would think he's going to be a top 10 pick, but I don't think that's for certain at all. And I think coming out of the Combine, that's the consensus from most NFL people.
Yeah, what were the takeaways as far as the way he interviewed? We know the confidence is off the charts. You wouldn't expect anything less from Coach Prime's son, and that's just how he does. He plays with a lot of confidence. He believes in himself, and he realizes that, hey, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him because of the name on the back of his jersey. But is his stock going up, or is it kind of staying around the same in what is kind of widely considered not one of the strongest quarterback drafts that we've seen in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think his stock is going up or down. I think that for the most part, these teams have known what they've thought about Shedeur Sanders for multiple years now. But now they get a chance to sit down with him, ask him questions, ask him how he would fit into their locker room, into their offense. And I think some of those interviews have been mixed. And that happens with every player, right? Not every player is going to gel with every coaching staff and every culture, every locker room. And I think you're starting to see some of those reports come out. Shedeur's going to be fine. Like, I'm not worried about him, but I do think we could be in for a little bit of a quote unquote draft day fall when maybe he's always somebody that should have been picked in the middle part of round one.
Where does your gut tell you right now as far as where he lands?
I think he lands. My gut still says the Raiders, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders are moving back a little bit and picking him. I do think we are going to see him fall further than maybe what people think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. They could still end up with that team, but not at that pick. Now, as far as the quarterbacks that did throw, we saw Jackson Dart. He had a really solid showing there at the Senior Bowl. He threw. You saw him connect on some deep throws. He looked like he definitely increased his stock a little bit, and he looks like he's someone who could be picked in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not a Jackson Dart guy, but I know there's teams around the NFL that do like him, and because this quarterback class is not very deep. I mean, we talked about Cam Ward, Shedeur, and then I think there's a big drop off. They're good. There's a chance that Dart is just that next guy taken. And we have a lot of teams that have quarterback needs between the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Jets, the Raiders, the Steelers. It wouldn't shock me if he's somebody that got picked inside the top 40. I think that's a little bit of a reach there. But we know that quarterbacks go early, and it seems like around the NFL, Jackson Dart is viewed as that quarterback 3 in this class.
Now, as far as kind of one of the biggest risers, you saw Tyler Shuck. I mean, he really looked impressive. I mean, he's 25, so older than some of these other guys. Could be a day 1, day 2, day 3. It feels like there's a lot of mixed opinions about Shuck, but did his stock rise as much as it has for some for you?
I mean, seeing him run in the 4.6s was pretty incredible, considering all the lower body injuries he had. He was pumping up that crowd in Indianapolis, and I wonder, maybe he'll be doing that for that same city later this year. I think Tyler Shuck to the Colts in round 2, round 3 makes a lot of sense for a team that's still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. He's not going to be for everybody. He's a more traditional pocket passer. But again, in a not very good draft class, I could see him being a top 75 selection.
And are we making too much of the clip of Will Howard? I'm missing some throws.
Yes.
I mean, kind of went viral. Are we making too much?
Care.
Okay.
We don't care about what they do with throwing. They're throwing to new receivers. Go look at like what Bo Nix did last year. Throwing to the combine was awful. The problem with Will Howard is he's just not a great quarterback prospect. I think he's always been a day 3 guy, maybe a late day 2 guy. It's fine. Don't overreact by a couple throws against air with receivers you've never thrown passes to before.
Now, as far as the position player side, as far as the receivers go, Matthew Golden out of Texas. I mean, you saw his numbers, the 40-yard dash. I mean, a 4.29. I mean, the 1.49 second 10-yard split. It looked like he showed some explosion. What are your thoughts on some of the receivers and who really stood out to you?
Yeah, there was a couple draft or sports books that put out some draft odds. And Matthew Golden had a 4.30 40-yard dash over under. And I was telling all my buddies, like, hey, smash the over. There's no chance. This is like a 4.45 receiver. A 4.29 was shocking to me because I didn't see that on tape, right? Like you don't see that kind of speed. But now that he's checked that box, like you're starting to hear rumblings and whispers like, hey, Matthew Golden might be the first receiver drafted in this class. These teams are just not going to shy away from that type of speed with his ability to separate. I think he was somebody who was like a borderline first-round pick coming into the combine. And now I wonder, like, hey, could he potentially be a top 10 pick? It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, his teammate Isaiah Bond, he was declaring, hey, I'm going to break the 40-yard dash record that was set by his former teammate Xavier Worthy. He didn't get close to it. He ran an official 4.3940, didn't even get close to that record. I mean, he did hit 24.17 miles per hour on the 40-yard dash. So according to Next Gen Stats, that was second, but it seemed like his stock kind of took a little bit of a hit, just not living up to those speed expectations that he had for himself, really.
Well, and that's the thing. You watch these Texas games, and it's undeniable who's the faster receiver on the field. You look at some of the pre-draft or pre-combine training that Bond was doing, some of his track numbers from high school, and yeah, we thought low 4.3s, maybe into the 4.2s. To see Matthew Golden beat him by a tenth of a second was shocking to me. Again, I don't want to overreact too much because it's just the combine. It's not that big of a deal. But I think Isaiah Bond, for how much he was talking up what he was going to do, it was a little disappointing.
Come on, Marcus, we're in the overreaction business, right? That's what we do, right? Especially Monday after the comp. No, but as far as a position player, receiver that kind of took a little hit, I mean, anyone, Tez Johnson, anyone that kind of stick out as far as guys that did not live up to their billing during the combine week?
I've got one for you. He didn't do anything. It's Tet McMillan from Arizona, who is widely believed to be the first receiver or the number 1 receiver in this class. He decided to do nothing at the NFL Combine, and he's telling reporters that he's not going to do anything at his pro day either. I don't think that's a good decision because I don't think Tet is the cleanest receivers. I think he's got some issues with his long speed. The fact that he basically declined to do everything at the Combine makes me wonder, like, maybe you're not the top receiver in this class. Maybe that has opened the door for Matthew Golden or Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka to jump him. I thought he was a top 10 lock going into the combine. And now I'm wondering, like, maybe he is somebody that could be available in the late teens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, I look at a guy like that, T-Mac, and you say, wait, what program are you at? I mean, are you a Marvin Harrison Jr. where you can have that locked up? He doesn't feel like he's reached that status, but almost feels like he's kind of carrying himself in his plan of action towards the combine. The pro days is kind of like that.
Yeah, and I think this is an opportunity to remind the world, like, hey, I'm the best receiver in the class. We saw Luther Burden test. We saw Matthew Golden. We saw a lot of these receivers go out and have big days. The fact that he felt like he didn't need to is a little concerning for me.
Yeah, and as far as the running backs, I mean, the running backs were just on fire. I mean, the speed, I mean, it was nonstop. Under times, I think the one guy that stood out to me, first of all, I love the name, is Bashal Tootin, running back out of Virginia Tech. I mean, you look at the numbers that he put up, I mean, it was really incredible. I mean, a 4.32, that was the best at a combine since 23-13 for a running back. I mean, you look at his other numbers, really, really impressive. Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. I mean, both excellent running backs at Ohio State. But who stood out as far as their RBs go?
Yeah, the last name that you mentioned, Quinshon Judkins. Like, we knew Travion Henderson was fast and that he was going to run fast. And he ran a 4.43. I don't think people were expecting Judkins to have a faster 10-yard split, which was the second fastest among all the running backs, 1.51, and to be significantly better in the explosion drills, the vertical jump, broad jump. I think Judkins, who is pretty clearly a top 5 running back in this class, has now solidified himself as a second-round pick at least. And now I'm wondering, because of his size, his power, his receiving ability, what the ceiling is here. There just aren't very many running backs that check as many boxes as he does. 3 years of production, 2 at Ole Miss, 1 at Ohio State. I think he's a fantastic back that could potentially be a top 40 pick.
Great combination of power and speed. I mean, he had the highest broad jump of any running back that tested at 11 feet, 38.5-inch vertical. I mean, this guy was an absolute freak. It's, you look at, I love it too. You look back and you're like, man, there's a reason why that team won the national championship, right? When you see the kind of talent. How about Jack Sawyer? I mean, you hear some of the stuff about some of the arm measurements and Campbell. Any of that kind of stuff stick out to you?
I mean, we knew he was a short-armed edge rusher, right?
Yeah.
But he's just a playmaker. You turn on the tape and you watch any of these big games, whether it's Michigan, the game against Texas, he finds ways to make plays. Now, I don't think he's a first-round pass rusher, but I think somebody's going to get a heck of a player on day 2 that can play either defensive end spots, can drop into coverage, can make plays against the run. I think he's just going to be a sound football player for the next 6 to 8 years. I think he'll be a good value inside the top 75.
Okay, now we got to talk about Abdul Carter. I mean, that's kind of one of the big hot topics leading into it. And Carter was widely considered to be possibly the number 1 pick. I mean, at least top 3. And then it was revealed that he did have a stress reaction in his foot. Drew Rosenhaus is saying that he's confident that he's going to be able to go on his pro day. It's going to be a non-factor for the team that drafts him, that he's going to put on a show during his pro day. Do you make anything of this injury as far as his stock goes?
No, not too much, because if you liked Abdul Carter before, you're not dropping him down because of an off-season injury. If I were Drew Rosenhaus, I would tell Abdul, hey, you don't need to test at your pro day. You're fine. Like, everybody sees the tape. They know how athletic you are. Your floor is like 3 in the draft. I mean, maybe 2. Like, I just can't see him falling very far. The most important thing is to make sure that Abdul Carter is healthy for week 1. And it doesn't sound like that's going to be an issue. He doesn't need surgery, but I don't think he needs to push this to try to prove that that he should be worthy of the number 1 pick. His tape speaks for itself. I'm glad to hear that he's going to be okay, though.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that him put on the full court press was a little much. It's not like he was defending him like he was Willis McCahey all those years ago after a catastrophic knee injury. He's going to be just fine. He's still an elite prospect for sure. Couple quick ones for you, and I want to hit you with this one. Who do you think is the most overrated player that could be picked in the first round of this draft?
That's a really, really good question. Well, I mean, I think if Jackson Dart goes in round 1, that's just a reach, but overrated. All right, I'll give you one. I just don't see it with James Pierce, the Tennessee edge rusher. I know that he had a heck of a performance at the NFL Combine. He ran in the 4.4s at 247 pounds. But you turn on the tape and he doesn't bend particularly well. He doesn't play the run well. Actually, Tennessee took him off the field on rundowns. He's got some off-the-field questions. Like, I know the sack totals are good, but I don't see a guy that's like a slam dunk first-round pick. To me, that's somebody that should go in the second round. I just don't get it.
Now, as far as the most underrated, anyone stick out? Anyone you got?
Can I go, like, we're doing just first round?
You can just throw it, yeah, whatever you got. I mean, it could be later than that, too. A little sleeper pick.
Let's go really deep.
Let's go super deep. I want to, we'll clip this just in case. I mean, he goes a Hall of Famer one day, and we're going to play this for him.
Dante Thornton, a wide receiver from Tennessee, on the consensus board going into the week was 327. Frankly, I'm shocked that he got an invite to the NFL Combine, but he averaged 25 yards a catch for Tennessee this season, He came in at the NFL Combine 6'5", 206 pounds, and ran a 4.30. He is the fastest player in NFL history, over 6'4", running a sub 4.35 40-yard dash. I mean, unbelievable. This is somebody that could be, for some ball knowers out there, like the next Martavis Bryant, this vertical downfield threat receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted in day 2 because he's got rare traits.
I like that Martavis Bryant comp for sure. Where you go? He was a Clemson dude, right? I think.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Clemson was just recruiting like crazy. Still are, actually, to be honest. Now, as far as your boys, you're the host of Locked On Cowboys. What do you want to see your Cowboys do in the draft early on?
Well, just this offseason, I would like to see them act like a competent, organized franchise, right? Like, sign the guys that need to be signed. Don't have a lot of drama. Like, you're going to sign Micah Parsons. We don't need to have this thing be drawn out through the media for the next 6 months. Just get him signed, get it done with. In the draft, I would love for them to either grab a receiver, whether it's Ted McMillan. I'm a huge Luther Burden fan. That's the guy that I want at 12. But if it's not a receiver, go to the defensive line. Shamar Stewart had an outstanding day. I think he would be a guy that would be considered at 12. Mykel Williams would make some sense. Jalen Walker. But more than anything, just be a competent, respectable franchise for once.
Awesome. And last question here. What was the reaction on your face when you looked at your phone, you saw that Luka Doncic had been traded to Lakers?
So first of all, I didn't see it until the morning.
Okay.
I just got done watching that.
You had to wake up to that? That's terrible. That's terrible.
No, I didn't. I got it up in the morning and I got like a million texts saying, you just look at your phone. You're gonna be shocked. I just joy. I'm just so happy every night watching Luka. There's so many times I'm watching my Lakers and it's just like I'm giggling because some of the stuff that Luka is doing, it's so much fun to have Luka on my lake.
I like it. And you're not going to be a popular guy rocking the Lakers Luka jersey around Dallas. I mean, you might have to give that a little bit of time. I mean, maybe, who knows? But definitely go give this guy a follow. One of the great draft combine ball knowers in the game, Marcus Mosher. You can follow him over on the X. He also works for Locked On Cowboys and also Team 33. So definitely go check that out. Marcus, we really appreciate your time, man. Go get some rest, man. You've been just burn that midnight oil following this draft, my man. Take it easy.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, there he goes, Marcus Mosher. A lot of interesting points. I want to bring in my man, J-Rob. We're going to talk about the winners and losers. I think, well, first one, we'll start with a guy that we follow very closely, Quinshon Judkins. I was shocked to see him run a sub 4.5. I mean, you saw that run that he had in the second half of the Notre Dame national championship game. He kind of got tackled out the 5, just kind of running out of gas, but it's the power and the strength and the speed. He could be the best running back in this class.
Yeah, he does possess the most versatility, I think, too, as a pass catcher. I mean, think of like a bigger Bucky Irving for what they did with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If put on a team that has, just a little bit of creativity, I think Judkins, ironically enough, could be a much better pro than he is a college player, just due to the fact that he's not going to be sharing the snaps with Trevion Henderson. And honestly, he's, to me, the full package. I mean, speed, quickness, great hands.
Soft hands. I mean, yeah.
I mean, he's a natural pass catcher. I mean, this kid has all the things that you're looking for, I think, in a modern day back. And listen, if he can pass block, I mean, this is a guy you don't really have to sub out too much. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very high on Quinshon Judkins.
Absolutely. And then Trevion Henderson had a nice 40 time as well. Let's talk about the quarterbacks, though. I think you look at the losers list. Will Howard, we talked a little bit about that, kind of those clips. And look, I don't think that, I mean, his stock kind of rose just because, I mean, he's on national championship winning team. But I think if you watch Will Howard, he doesn't scream 10-year NFL starter to me. I think that he was a guy that if he gets an opportunity, he could run with it. But I mean, he does feel like a career backup to me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody and thought, is he going to really climb into a first round, second round, third round? Listen, he's going to be known as a great college quarterback. And if somehow a team is able to develop him into a solid NFL starter, I'll be very surprised. But I will say this, Will Howard is athletic. He is big. There could be some Taysom Hill-like packages for him in the NFL. And I will say this, Doug, I appreciate Shedeur Sanders coming to defend his fellow quarterback, but you're throwing on air, man. And the reality is, I think you said it before, this is the souped up underwear and t-shirts, event. And so because of that, it's like you're on air, man. These are like layups. You got to hit these layups.
It's the underwear Olympics, right? Yeah, exactly. And he just didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Another guy too, I actually think this guy's just not going to do anything in the NFL. I'm not going to say he's going to be a bust because I don't think he's going to be drafted high, but that's Dylan Gabriel. If you looked at his clips, the accuracy just did not look good compared to the other quarterbacks that were involved. The average arm strength, and kind of, he's a guy, he's not the biggest guy. He has to kind of wind up for those deep shots. I mean, surrounded by a lot of receiver talent at Oregon, but it's the thing with like Kyler Murray, right? I mean, his size, it's elite quickness, speed, and he has an arm
strength. Yeah,
it's there. If you are undersized, you got to do something great. Drew Brees, accuracy. Kyler Murray, quickness. Michael Vick, he's Michael Vick. The speed off the charts, right? Dylan Gabriel doesn't have anything to me that says, he has a chance to be special because he does this thing special. So, yeah, I think that was a disappointing showing for him for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think when you're a undersized quarterback, I think you hit it on the nose. Like, you have to have some sort of level of, there has to be some quality about you that sets you apart. Like, obviously, Kyler Murray's 5'10", but his athletic ability is off the charts. And then I could look at a Bryce Young. Bryce Young's very physically comparable to that of a Dylan Gabriel. But I think you and I will both agree from watching that, especially that last stretch of games for him in Carolina, he has the arm strength. He can make all the NFL throws. And his release, he's not winding it back here, regardless of how
it is slender. A compact release,
And he's slender, but it's, he just has a natural ability to throw the football. And so when I watch him versus a Dylan Gabriel, I just feel like Dylan Gabriel's going to be a guy where he's going to give me like a Kellen Moore type of vibe. Great college quarterback, going to have great accuracy, can definitely read defense, but just doesn't have the God-given abilities that would take him over the top in the NFL.
I agree with that. Now, as far as kind of the defensive side, of course, former D1 college football player, I think Jahdae Barron, first of all the talent in Texas, the speed, they are winning. The great recruiting weekend for the Longhorns for sure. There were some questions about his speed entering the combine. He's 5'11", 194, posted a 4.39 40-yard dash. That was the sixth fastest among corners. Had a 1.5 second 10-yard split. That was the 82nd percentile. Won the Jim Thorpe in college. He led the SEC with 5 interceptions. I think this is someone who just looks and screams NFL plug and play year one.
Yeah, he's the safest defensive back in the draft to me, not named Travis Hunter, because of his
over Will Johnson.
Yeah, over Will Johnson. I think 100%. The thing that makes Jahdae Barron so electric as a prospect is, Doug, when you have a DB that you can put in multiple different positions and he can excel at more than one, he gives me very much Tyrann Mathieu type of vibes. Like, you're not just going to have him play corner. You're not just going to have him play safety. He's going to be in nickel. He's going to play your star and your dime packages. You're going to move him around a lot. He's a guy that you're always going to be in like a nickel type of set because you're not going to go a snap without him off the field. His nose for the football, his instincts, his IQ. Like, he's a guy, Doug, that you can tell is watching the game in slow motion because he watches so much film. He sees the tendencies and he's understanding formations. Like, this is what you look for in a elite level safety. You're looking for that quarterback on the defensive side of the football, and I think Jahdae Barron is easily.
Yeah, and when you're gifted athletically, you have the luxury of doing that, right? A lot of guys, if you don't have it from that standpoint, you can't slow the game down because you can't react as quickly, right? So I think it's a fantastic point for sure. And like I said, these Texas receivers doing work at the NFL Combine. But yeah, other guys what do you make of kind of the arm measurement thing? A lot of people kind of talking about that. Mason Graham, he didn't participate in very many drills, but he did get his measurements, and they weren't great. 296, he was down from the estimates of 320 at Michigan, 32-inch arms. That's a 26th percentile. You see other interior defensive linemen in this class, and it's a pretty deep class from that standpoint. They're measured better, and they also perform well in the drills too. So not the best weekend for Mason Graham.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. I'll be honest, Doug. He's one of those guys where I'm turning the tape on. I'm not going to get too caught up in.
I get way too caught up, man. I'll just straight up tell you that now.
But the thing is, this draft, ironically enough, Will Campbell they questioned his arm size. And then, honestly, our boy Jack Sawyer, they questioned the length of his arms as well and his athleticism. So, this is one of those guys where, like, I have to turn the tape on because, look, I get it. He's not Shamar Stewart out there. He doesn't look like Mike Green. He doesn't look like Abdul Carter. But Mason Graham is an absolute game wrecker as a defensive tackle. And yeah, his arms can be short, but where he plays in the interior in those A gaps, essentially this is still the guy we've seen dominate college football. So yeah, you can get lost into the measurables, but you don't want to miss out on a guy who, when you watch the tape, can't miss, because Aaron Donald, and Mason, I am not putting those expectations on you. But Aaron Donald did not measure out great at all. But his tape at Pittsburgh showed you that he was an elite level football player, despite what maybe some of the measurables said. So, I'm not going to read too deep into Mason Graham specifically, just because with him specifically, I have been very high on his tape. And I think the tape can kind of overcome some of those, maybe doubts.
Yeah, I think when you see jaws drop and hit the floor, when you see a certain measurement, it is overblown, especially when it's a player that's had a lot of success at the college level. If it was a guy good for 5 games and then the measurements aren't there, the speed isn't there, all the drills aren't there, then you're like, okay, he didn't match my expectations. But when it's someone that has been good for a long time, then I think, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt and look at the tape. But Jack Sawyer is a pretty interesting one to me, though. I mean, he lost his footing a couple times. He decided not to run the 40-yard dash and some of the other individual testing workouts, maybe protecting himself a little bit from that standpoint. He actually did measure out as having the shortest arms of any of the edge rushers. So I don't know. It's got to be awkward to be there after the measurements. I'd be like extending my arms. I don't know, I'd be like, don't look at, everyone's kind of looking into your arms. They think they're like looking like this or something.
Rubber bands on my hands.
Yeah, doing something. And then Mason Graham the same way. You mentioned Will Campbell. He had 32 and 5/8 inch arms. I mean, that's an inch below any team. I mean, the average around 34. So who knows if that changes kind of the stock on him. But look, all in all, I think the biggest takeaways are the guys that are at the top: Cam Ward, Shador, Abdul Carter. You didn't see, and we'll see how Carter looks at his pro day. I think it's going to be about fit. I do agree with Marcus that it will be Cam Ward going 1 though.
Yeah, I think so too. I think ultimately, just based off what the team needs. And I do feel like a lot of teams are more intrigued by Cam Ward's improvisation skills in the pocket. And he definitely can throw at some really awkward arm angles. And look, he's a dog, absolute leader. Mario Cristobal spoke glowingly of him coming into Miami. But I will put this into perspective, real life. If you watched Shador Sanders tape with the Colorado Buffaloes, if you're actually objectively watching and not looking at the Sanders on the back of his jersey, Doug, there isn't a quarterback I've seen, I think, in the last decade at the quarterback position that's had a worse offensive line over the last 2 years. And for his ability to play despite that offensive line and not be like antsy in a pocket and erratic with the football, I mean, I'm a scout. I'm looking at that and like, listen, you're going to have a better offensive line in the pros than you ever had in college. In your last 3 years at Jackson State, at Colorado, I mean, it's not going to compare. So, just to throw that into perspective out there, I feel like people are really underestimating Shador. And I think a lot of it is based off talking points that aren't based in anything that they didn't hear from some other media correspondent, except for outside of their own research. Yeah,
I think he has kind of got this kind of polarizing label slapped onto him just because he's talking more confidently and out there than most prospects. And I think a lot of that matches who he is, though. So the thing is, Shador's always had this confidence and he's delivered with this confidence. It's not like he's saying things after the fact. Like it still feels authentic to him. And that's why I buy it. I don't think it matters because I think he's going to go to the Raiders. So it doesn't matter if the Raiders have the first pick, or the 20th pick, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like he's going to be a Raider. So at the end of the day, I mean, if they sign someone else and draft him and kind of have a bridge to him, that's fine. But I think he fits in with that culture, and I think they deserve that. I can see you want him on the Raiders.
I'm crossing my fingers.
The Raiders.
New York, man.
Oh, you want New York?
I want him with the Jets so bad.
Oh,
man.
gosh.
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm praying. I pray that we can land him. I'm just hoping that we jump the Raiders, or the Raiders just bring in Sam Darnold. Please go get Sam. Let the Jets have this. God, please, just a quarterback come to New York and
it would be nice. It would be nice. But we're going to switch gears to the association. The Lakers and Luka Doncic continue to prove that they're not just a team that's dangerous. They're a team that should be feared at this point. What if I told you a month ago, 2 months ago, that we are going to be in early March, that we're going to be on March 3rd, and the Los Angeles Lakers would be sitting at 38-21, second in the Western Conference Finals. I'll give J-Rob his flowers because he did say the Lakers would be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. So we'll give you your flowers here in just a minute. But the Lakers are looking up at just the Oklahoma City Thunder at this point. And it's not just that they're winning games. They're winning games on both sides of the court. The Lakers just continue to get it done on the defensive side as well. The Lakers have not allowed more than 102 points in a game in a long, long time. Since you've had this trade, since you've been able to put this group together and schematically improve the defense, they have not allowed a team to score more than 102 points since the All-Star break. Those are elite numbers. If you look at defensive ratings, if you look at the way this team can bottle up stars, James Harden, 2 bad games against the Lakers on the Clippers side. And you look at the overall score. I mean, the Lakers, they swept the season series from the Clippers. They win 108-102. It was their 6th straight win. By the way, I mean, you look at the way they performed last couple of months. I mean, that includes losses to the Jazz and the Hornets. So they could even be closer. They could be looking at a 40-win season already. They're already 11 games up of where they were last year. And the biggest takeaway from last night's game for me was Luka Doncic just continues to get more comfortable. Think about this. I mean, he was coming back off a calf injury, hadn't played since Christmas, going through the emotions of being traded by a team that he thought that he was going to play his entire career for. They was going to have a statue of in front of their arena. It was only understandable that there were going to be some off shooting nights. Now Luka's starting to cook. There's no fat Luka. There's no lazy Luka. There's no hookah Luka. There's none of that. It's Luka Doncic, all NBAer, a guy that looks like he's going to win a couple MVPs in the purple and gold. And last night he was outstanding. 29 points, 6 boards, 9 dimes, 2 steals. And I think that what really stood out to me was LeBron James just had 17 points, had 5 boards, had 9 assists, but now you can live with LeBron not having a dominating performance. And that's going to be ultimately what determines if this team wins a championship. Can you preserve this version of LeBron James that heading into this one had averaged almost 29 points per game in his last 9 games? He's playing like an all-NBA player again. I don't know if you saw the stat that someone put up. They compared LeBron James's numbers this year to his MVP year in 2012 to 2013. So LeBron, since he turned 40 with the Lakers, averaging 26.5 points per game on 55% shooting, 43% from beyond the arc, 8.3 rebounds, and 8.1 assists. His MVP season with the Miami Heat, he averaged 26.8 points, so a slight decimal point up from that. 51% field goal shooting, so less. 35% three-point shooting, so less rebounds at 7.5 per game, and less assists at 7.4 assists per game. It's unreal to think that at 40 with the Lakers, LeBron James is putting up better numbers in the big 2025 than he was during his MVP campaign in the 2012 to 2013 season. We're starting to lose superlatives and adjectives and ways to describe how he's able to continue this dominance, but for me, last night was the fact that they still won, and he did have 8 turnovers. He did score just 17 points. And another big takeaway from last night, Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect scored 8 of his 19 points in the first quarter, so he comes out, has a strong start, and he looked like he's gotten over anything that he was dealing with as far as, hey, they included you in a trade for Mark Williams. Now with Dalton Connect, you have someone that can get you big buckets. With guys like Reeves and Rui Hachimura out, he can handle some scoring. Dorian Finney-Smith goes 4 for 9 from the field, had 11 points. Gabe Vincent pitched in with 9 points and 3 rebounds. He's playing the 3-and-D role. So this Lakers team looks deep. The defense looks top tier. You have a closer. I mean, that bank shot from Luka Doncic, those moments, bearing threes, talking smack to that Clippers bench. That's what we love. We prayed for times like this in Lakerland. That's what we love. We love players that can score and be elite, but also play to the crowd, entertain. And that's what you're getting with Luka Doncic. So it was really impressive to see that. By the way, LeBron's chase down block, that was pretty impressive as well, that athleticism. But I think with Luka, the thing for me is that you're seeing him pick his spots at times. It's the facilitating, finding guys in the corners, using the lob threat when it's there. But it's just the overall, hey, like, I've been here for a couple weeks. I've unpacked. I know how to get to where I live, right? I mean, think about where you were the first day at your new job, how awkward you were. You're like, hey, that's awesome. You know, you say all kinds of weird stuff. You act all different. That's great. Oh yeah, that's awesome. You know, but then like 2 months in through, it's like, hey, how's it going? You know, you're your real self. I think he's starting to be his real self out there, and it's paying dividends. I mean, Vando, the success they've had with Vando is crazy. I mean, everything is looking like, oh my goodness, this is a Lakers team that isn't just, oh, we're better off for the future. It's no, the future is intact, but the present is a championship contender. And we're going to talk about this brutal schedule they have coming up. But hey, now if you want to take your victory lap, you can go ahead and do it right now, J-Rob. Because you got to give him credit. Got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, going into the season, I felt like the biggest thing from the Lakers a season ago and this year was the coaching. I really wasn't that high on Darvin Ham. I think from an X's and O's standpoints, there were some elements that were missing from his ability to coach the squad. When I look at JJ Redick, especially just when they played against the Denver Nuggets recently, the way he had coverage for Jokic, it just shows how obsessed he is with like finding the right ways to use the pieces that you have on the board. Obviously, I did not predict Luka Doncic coming, and obviously that has had some merit in how the Lakers' success has been. But obviously, LeBron James has played at a all-world level. I think MVP level. I think we have to start taking that little asterisk away from LeBron, where we say he's doing all of this for a 40-year-old. He's still just one of the best players on the entire planet, and that's what that is. And watching Luka finally get into his rhythm, I mean, I thought it would take about 6-7 games for him to get back to, you know, the Luka of old, or really just find his rhythm with this Lakers team. But now that he's finding his stride alongside LeBron James, I mean, you turn LeBron James into the best second option in the NBA, and Luka's there to lead the charge. I mean, the sky's the limit for this team. The media has to really talk about this team as a legitimate finals contender, because I think if we look around the West, the only two teams that we look and say have a real shot of beating this Lakers team is Oklahoma City, who's very inexperienced in these type of big game matchups, or the Denver Nuggets.
For sure. I mean, those are the teams right there, and we'll see if they can get to the finals and face one of those Celtics or Cavaliers teams. But I like that Luka gets it. He was asked yesterday about the theory that teams play up when they go against the Lakers. And instead of saying, oh, no, it's nothing. I mean, it's the NBA. You bring your best every night. I don't know what's the difference. He leaned into it. Lucas said, yeah, I think so. I didn't believe it before, but they say if somebody is out a long time, they play against the Lakers. I didn't believe that for a long time, but obviously it's the Lakers. So I think that he is starting to really embrace the mystique of the purple and gold. I think he's really enjoying playing in front of this re-energized fan base. And I think that he's all in for now and for the future. And that, like you said, I mean, no one wants to play his Laker team right now, but there are teams on their schedule, and that to me, like people are saying this is a special Laker team. This is like pump the brakes just a little bit, and let's see how they navigate their way through this March schedule. If they make it through their March schedule and they don't go through any losing streaks, you're not playing 500 basketball, then I will be ready to say this team has the potential to be special. If you look at the Lakers' March schedule, don't look now, but it's tough, okay? They're 9-2 in their last 11 games, but they have the 5th toughest schedule for the rest of the year. And this month, in March, they have 17 games in 30 days. LeBron James even went to Instagram to talk about how tough that schedule was. They have to play the Bucks on the road. They got to fly out to Milwaukee to take on the Nuggets. After a day off, they'll come back for a back-to-back against the Suns and the Spurs. And yes, the Spurs game, I mean, you don't have Wemby in there, but De'Aaron Fox just hit a game winner. It's the NBA. And then Phoenix, you still have KD in Devin Booker. Then they have a day off, and then they play the Spurs and the Nuggets again at home to wrap up the series with them. And then, look, it's just tough to win multiple back-to-backs, but you got 2 back-to-back games, and you have to play the same team twice in short order. The Lakers have to do that 3 times in a little over a week. So that's a lot. I mean, after the Pelicans tomorrow, you got the Knicks at home. Then you got a road game against the defending champion Boston Celtics. That's going to be a massive game this Saturday. Then you go to Brooklyn. That's the final game before a 6-game and 8-day stretch. And then to finish up March, you got a 4-game road trip against above 500 teams. You're going up against the Pacers, the Grizzlies, and then you get a home game against the Rockets on the last day of March. So February, it was a great month. I mean, they go 10-2 at the fourth best plus minus in the association at 9.8. You had the best defensive rating in the sport at 107.2. If you can get anything close to that in March, then we could start talking about this Laker team has the talent, they have the coaching, they have the incentive, knowing that you're not going to get that many more. Who knows? I mean, LeBron James, he's going to be a granddad dropping triple doubles and stuff like that. But who knows what it's going to look like? But I'm going to pencil the Lakers going 4 games over 500 in that stretch. And even if they don't, if you go, let's say 6-5, I mean, you're talking 43-26, a 623 win percentage, probably a 5 seed in the Western Conference. So I still think that this is a Laker team with time to gel, a tough schedule. Now that Laker playing up opponent thing that Luke was talking about is going to be even more because they're a good team. But yeah, it's a daunting schedule. But we are going to switch gears to Deebo. Deebo Samuel has been traded, and he gets dealt to the Washington Commanders. He was traded for a 5th-round pick, and it just wasn't going to work in San Francisco. There was a lot of talk that they were going to move on from him. Has not had the greatest last couple of years. He's dealt with some injuries. I've been saying, hey, I'm going to start calling him. To me, he's Tyshun Samuel. He's got to earn the Deebo name back. But I like that fit. I mean, McLaurin, 1,000-yard receiver. Jaden Daniels going to hit you in stride. I don't think this is a game-changing, okay, let's change the Super Bowl odds type of move, but I think if he's utilized correctly with Kingsbury in that offense, finding a guy that's a non-traditional type of receiver where he almost has plays where he's like a running back, he adds another element to what was already a top 5 offense in the NFL. It's just about, I think, hopefully getting Deebo back to a part where he's feeling really good about his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, he is going to have so much fun with Deebo Samuel and how he's going to utilize him. Obviously, we saw how the Shanahan tree used Deebo Samuel as a running back, receiver, mix it up. I think for Deebo Samuel at this point in his career, he's not a guy who's going to really get open on the outside as an X wide receiver. You're going to use him as like a gadget guy, as a slot receiver, get him on a lot of mismatches, and then also be able to give him the football in handoff, jet sweeps, things like that. You really want to give him the ball in space and just kind of let him be Deebo. That's what makes him great. I think when you take a receiver like that and add him to an already great offense that they have in Washington, obviously the sky's the limit. When you have such a young quarterback, Doug, this is what we talked about on previous shows. You have the ability to kind of spend your money and see what works because you have this window of time before you have to pay Jaden Daniels this big money. And the crazy part is, I mean, you were already in the NFC Championship with your rookie quarterback. So you have this 3-year window before you have to pay the big bucks, where it's like, if I'm the Washington Commanders, I am going to try a bunch of different things to see if I can get a Super Bowl by his 3rd or 4th year as the quarterback of the Commanders while I have the money to really spend and be flexible.
Yeah, and I mean, the first thing that I thought when I saw the trade, I mean, a 5th-round pick for Deebo, man, he's cooked, right? I mean, but then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, look, I mean, based on his production, the injuries, I mean, 4,800 career receiving yards, more than 1,100 career rushing yards, 42 touchdowns. But if I'm a Commanders fan, when you get excited about this trade, the last thing I would do would go and kind of look at his stats. I mean, the yards per catch, per run, the catch percentage, the success rate, they just weren't good. They just were not good based on where he was earlier in his career. So you really have to buy into a turnaround. But I do think that he's going to improve their wide receiver room. The only thing is he going to improve it a little, or is he going to improve it a lot? And I think the exciting thing for Commanders fans and the organization is it's high variance, right? The upside is certainly there. So it did make a lot of sense. You got Brown, you got LMC got Oz. I mean, look, Jaden Daniels is the real deal. I mean, J-Rob, he gave me crap because I had him in my top 5 QBs, but I did it because I believe in the arm and the talent, the accuracy.
He's got it all.
And Deebo, I think, is like, you know what? Brock Purdy, he's good. Jaden Daniels has a chance to be an MVP.
That's
right?
for sure a fact.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm and also there's a little effy about that, right? If I'm Deebo, I'm like, oh, okay. Go, you guys can pay Ayuk $40 million to drop balls, right? I mean, I'll go to the Commanders in a better situation possibly for him. I think he needed a reset button.
But the thing is, even if that was the mindset, Brandon Ayuk is a better wide receiver
for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
About it.
I think Deebo Samuel, if he wants this situation in Washington to really work out, he's going to have to. I'm not going to say he has an ego, but in some ways, he's going to have to, let go of some of his pride as a player, because I think the way he'll be successful for them is allowing them to use him where they feel like he needs to be fit in.
Yes.
He can't demand for the football in this spot. If they want to give you a bubble screen here, a jet sweep here, a hitch route here, just use, because Deebo don't need a lot of targets to accumulate a lot of yak yards. You know what I'm saying? You give him the ball, he has 4 targets. He can have 80 yards based off yards after the catch, things like that. So as long as he allows himself to be that Swiss Army knife for that offense, I do think this is a good situation. And yes, he did go to the better quarterback. Jaden Daniels is, look, I love Brock.
And he's just a better runner too. So he complements him in that standpoint too. I love that you bring up the yak though. I mean, Washington, they had 4.6 expected yak per possession last season. That's not great. And for someone like a Deebo Samuel that's going to be rejuvenated, I like how you mentioned that it's about kind of the mindset. He's going to be on his best behavior. He's not going to want to ruffle any feathers. He's going to want to almost reestablish his value in the league for sure. Yeah, absolutely. no doubt about that, right? I mean, yeah, there's that for sure. Also too, I mean, from the Niners standpoint, you look at where San Francisco kind of sits in all this and kind of the financial ramifications of that deal. I mean, you're going to have to absorb $31.5 million in dead money hit for this year's salary cap, and he has 1 year remaining on his contract that will count $17.5 million on the Commanders' salary cap. So you're looking at basically a 1.17 base salary for an option. So look, I think financially it is what it is, but hopefully the Commanders are a team that's exciting. Mm-hmm. And them being aggressive like this and kind of taking a flyer, I think they're kind of listening to Cliff Kingsbury, and you kind of have to trust him from that standpoint. So I think it's an exciting move. But now let's get to the biggest story in the world of sports, in the whole entire universe. Yes, this is the big lead, folks. Yes, we talk about, I mean, look, the NBA, the NFL, they have script writers too, okay? It's just a different thing. But on Saturday night, in front of 38,000 fans at the Rogers Center in Toronto for WWE's Elimination Chamber, John Cena, he did it. He finally went heel. The babyface, the guy that no one thought would go heel, who's retiring soon, did just that. And the way he did it is, going up, I thought seeing The Rock do what he did, kind of doing that thing, and he goes against Cody Rhodes the way he did. It felt like a lot of WWE fans, their heart just dropped. They didn't know what to make of it. You have WWE fans saying it was the most shocking thing. I've been trying to think of how do you explain in NFL terms? I mean, is it Patrick Mahomes going up to Andy Reid, Stone Cold stunning him, taking off his jersey and having a Raiders jersey underneath it and going and signing with Tom Brady? I mean, I don't know, J-Rob, you're a WWE expert here. I mean, what do you make of what we saw this weekend?
I mean, this is by far the greatest or the most controversial heel turn in the history of WWE. I mean, this might be the most shocking thing I've ever seen in all my years of watching professional wrestling. John Cena in his farewell tour in the year that he is set to break the 17th get his 17th world title, and break this long-standing record set by Ric Flair. This heel turn shows that even in a year where he's supposed to go off into the sunlight, anything for number 17. And that's what he's willing to do for it. I mean, this was what they say when they slap their hands and put in the sky and say, that was complete cinema. I mean, ultimately, the way Adam Cole talked about, does he really have to sell out, and the shock around the stadium. And the thing I thought was crazy about it, Doug, it was almost as if fans were like, finally, he's not the good boy anymore, because there was like a mix of boos and cheers. And I think the cheers were from fans who were like in shock, like a, oh my God type of shock, but like also too, he finally is doing it, because this is something that he's kind of like teased at and made jokes about. And there have been like a bunch of promos between him and other professional wrestlers where he is they've definitely kind of talked about his, persona as like this baby face being a bit of a facade. This is a guy who's done the most Make-A-Wish of any celebrity. And so for him to go down this road and go down this story with The Rock as his stablemate, I mean, this is epic, Doug. Like, I'll be honest. If John Cena don't win at WrestleMania, whether he's a heel or not, I think the world riots. I'm telling you, this, and I know people are talking about Travis Scott. This is Hulk Hogan with Dennis Rodman, New World Order all over again. But I'll be honest, as my peers would say, there's way more aura in this than it was back then. Seeing Travis Scott smack
he had the sage.
Yo,
it was crazy.
It was crazy.
But this is from WWE. Just for those who didn't see it, says that John Cena won the 6-man elimination chamber match. The winner gets to face WWE Universal Champion Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania in April. Cena was met in the ring by Rhodes, where the two nominal baby faces shook hands. Then came The Rock, the pro wrestling icon, who also holds a position on the board of parent company TKO, who said that these flaunts of his front office power and a bad guy on screen as the final boss. Over the past couple of weeks, he's been saying this. He's been haranguing Rhodes to give him his soul, to sign a deal with the devil and become The Rock's corporate champion. On Saturday, Rhodes declined, "Go F yourself," were his exact words. And in the background, the oversized gesture made Cena memorable and grating that he ends up attacking him. So, I mean, where's The Rock in all of this is kind of my question.
I mean, he's the final boss. That's what he's been saying. I mean, this is some of The Rock's best work too. I mean, this final boss.
He joined in.
Yeah, he's pretty much telling them like, listen, I am at the head of this thing. I'm at the head of the food chain. And Cody, if you're not going to sell me your soul and become a part of what I have going on, there's always an answer. And the thing that's been kind of cryptic to me is the first time he did the going across, he threw 3 in the air. Right.
Yeah.
Then when he did it with John Cena, this time that this big moment,
that was
2.
That to me felt like in Star Wars, like execute the Order 66.
Yes.
Right. And he just like, it will be done, my lord. Like you just didn't question it. Like the Winter Soldier activating type stuff. Like,
yo, literally, that's what
right?
it feels like
that.
He has a Winter Soldier and it's John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena is peacekeeper right now. Like,
it felt like that. But no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you know that one story about John Cena too, about being in the hospital and stuff, where John Cena, he woke up in the hospital and he asked, "Where am I at?" And then the nurse said, "ICU," and then John Cena said, "No, you can't." No, you can't. I mean, I'm trying to get you, but no, I mean, look, hey, I will say 30, 40, 50-year-old men had kind of no business like yelling at the screen like they were.
Oh,
but
man.
I love it. Like I said,
I was yelling at the screen.
I haven't been full disclosure, I've been a hardcore WWE fan since like Attitude Era. This is my life now. I'm all in. Lakers, Dodgers are gonna have to take a back seat because it's all about this John Cena heel turn thing. I'm totally here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I am all the way invested into this storyline. I'm all in for it.
And we know why, by the way. You're a wrestler too, right?
The Wolf?
The Wolf?
Oh, man.
Come on, do it. Come on, do it. You got to do it. Do it one time.
If Noel had the footage of Wolf,
we'll get it for next show.
If we get the footage, I'll show everybody. But I'll leave with this. John Cena told the world, F them kids. I'm going for number 17. He's putting away the towels in bright colors. He's picking up his lock chain again and putting on a Doctor of Thugonomics jersey back on. I am all in for it. Yo, come on.
No, hey, we're totally here for. We can't wait to see the developments with that. You can't see him, John Cena. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Big Lead. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. Thanks to our guest, Marcus Mosher. You got J-Rob Rock with us as always. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, drop your comments down below. And until next time, we're out.